So if you're focusing on blocking the opponent only, then that's taking all of your mental faculties towards the block, which is not good. Whereas if you're focused fully on hitting the opponent, that's also taking all of your focus on offense, and you're not focused anything on defense. But the highest fighters, they have balanced both. They can defend and perform offense at the same exact time. So you just get used to it. Just blocking while you're blocking the opponent, coming up for a strike. You know? So most people could only hit or they could only block. But the true fighter, the really good ones, can do both at the same time. You see what I'm saying? And it takes a lot of practice, but it's possible. And even if you get close to it, even if you block and then hit real quick, that's good as well, until you get to that point where you can do both at the same time. That's very important. All right. Next on the list is, actually, I should still work on blocks. So there's a lot of ways that you can block. You have holding the wrist, just slapping that arm out of the way, coming in through the inner line, this is the inner line, this is the outer line. You could come in through the inner line or come in through the outer line, right, and bring him down. But pretty much always you want to have his arms coming down, right? Because if you have his arms coming up, you can hit him from under, but it's not nearly as effective as bringing those arms down and getting that opponent to the ground, right? Which is one of the most important goals, to get your opponent to the ground. So if you're successfully blocking down, 1, 2, 3, 4, some fights, you can calculate yourself that you're going to be throwing 500 punches, right? Preparing yourself for that, training yourself for that. I mean, in some fights, you could be blocking, up to 500 punches back. And if you're always blocking down, then that opponent is going to go down even without you hitting him. He's just going to naturally get down to the ground. So be aware of that. You should always be punching up, and you should always be blocking down. All right. We can also focus on false thrusts, which are pretty much your faking the opponent out once again. Just pretending that you're going to go in to the opponent and then coming back into arm guard stance just to mess with his head, right? And it's just such an easy thing to do. You're pretending like you're coming into attack, and then you're going back to arm guard position. So he thinks that you're going to attack him, but you're just, and then coming back out. And that messes with his mind. You want to mess with as many of these centers as you can, combining that maybe with a slap, coming back, many more feints, pretending you're going to jab him, until ultimately, his mind gets completely knotted up where it's very easy to hit him. That's pretty much one of the main goals, especially with fighters that are stronger than you. People say, well, how am I possibly going to defeat a guy who's this big, Like, I fought some guys that are 220 pounds. And a lot of the times it wasn't really a fight, but I still won because I was either exhausting the opponent, kept rolling from his punches, and then eventually getting a couple of kicks in where I won the fight, or just feinting, messing with their mind, pretending I'm going to hit him up top and then hitting him in the shins over and over again. That'll take an opponent out. I've defeated multiple people over 200 pounds, over 6 feet tall, and I'm only 5'8". I only weigh 175 pounds. So one of the main ways that you can defeat an opponent, and these are street fights. These aren't just ring fights, This is out in the street where you could potentially really get hurt. So you really want to know the best, and I'm giving you the best by letting you know that if you want to defeat an opponent, you want to combobulate his mind, so he's an easy takedown. So that's another way that you can trick him out, or pretty much defeat him mentally without even physically doing anything to him. So next thing is the sweep, which is pretty much you're sweeping the opponent's legs out from underneath him, right? So he could be in any position. He could be here, he could be here, he could be behind you, and you could just literally sweep his feet out from under him just with a lot of force. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring him to the floor very successfully, and then you can get on top of him and take him down that way. And so when you sweep, you're going to be sweeping from a 90-degree angle, which means you're going to be going in a half circle with your foot, but while you're doing that half circle, it's going 90 degrees up. That's the sweep. So like this is your leg moving, and then you're going down and then up. So sweeping up. It takes a lot of energy if you don't know how to sweep, but if you do know how to sweep, it's not that hard at all. Pretty much you're going to just be focusing on the area from his ankle, between his ankle and mid-calf. So from here to here, here to here, and you could just use his own weight to bring him down very fast. And if you want, if you're close to him, or if you're in close proximity to him, you can actually sweep him and then use your arms to bring him down like that. And he'll go down like he doesn't have much weight to him, because you're using his own weight. So imagine that feeling of weightlessness. That's the feeling of using an opponent's own weight against him. So as he's falling down, he weighs so much weight, but you're simultaneously pushing down on his chest or his arm, whatever you have. If you can grab that, it's great. And you're pushing down while you're pulling up, and it's gonna feel like he has no weight, like he's weightless. And that's a high level of takedown called the sweep. Once again, I taught you about the shins. These are the most painful aspects of the body because they have the least amount of tissue to the body. Every area of the body, even the face, has more tissue than where the shins. So if you hit somebody in the shins, which is also the easiest place to hit a person. So not only is it the most vulnerable and the most painful with the least amount of insulation or tissue protection, but it is also the most accessible to the opponent. Most opponents, if you're hitting them in the shin, you'll win that fight. You hit them in the shin once, twice, 3 times, they're going to go away, or they're going to be completely discombobulated, because here they're thinking that they're going to be in a regular rumble match with you, and you're just taking out their shins. So 99.9% of fighters are just focused on these 2 things. So if you get good at kicking out that shin, kicking out that shin, kicking out that shin, feinting, oh, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Kicking out that shin, right? As soon as you feint, he's gonna come out like this. His shin's gonna come out to say hit me, right? So that's pretty much, you go to hit him, right? You're faking. He thinks you're gonna hit him, so his leg's gonna come out like this. It's gonna look like this. Now his shin's out here, and it's like taking candy from the baby. All right, so that's the next thing. Also, use structural training in your blocks. You want to be able to get the structure tissue. This is important. A lot of this training that I'm giving you is important for you to learn structural training. Read the book. If you're too busy, read the audio book that I gave you. That's very important in bringing you to the next level of power the next level of fighting. Because a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching, yeah, it's the most powerful stuff. But if you're applying structural training to it, you're going to be untouchable. No one's really going to be able to mess with you. No one's going to mess with you. Subconsciously, they're just going to be able to look at your physiology and know that you're accessing deeper muscles than they have, and that they're training. And they're not going to want to engage with you at all. So, like I said, the main piece is to dissolve a conflict before it even evolves, by your opponent knowing that you're stronger than them, or at least that you know how to defend yourself and they're not going to waste their time. So that's really important to learn ST. If you're doing ST while you're doing that swoop, you know, no opponent is going to be able to say, you know, come back from that. You know, they're going to hit the floor, and they're going to hit the floor very easily. Next. I think I told you before in level 2, but I'm going to stress it again because it's that important. The on guard position is the most important position. So if you're blocking, always try to get back to on guard position. Your opponent, if he's punching you, he's locked into a certain energy, which is not a good energy, especially if he's always focused on attacking. He's locked into this forward momentum energy. So after you block him, which actually on the block level is a better level to be in. So that's why it's very important when you deliver blows to make sure that they're strong, they're calculated, that you're using your intelligence to calculate those blows. Because in the attack level is not a good level to be in unless you're successfully using that energy at 100%. It's much better to be at a block position or the on guard position where you're free. You know, I can punch, I can block, I can do what I want. I can move to the left, I can move to the right. You know, you can only move forward, backward, and to the circle, right? Focusing on circling the opponent, right? So he knows that you're circling him. That's a very important key, that you're not just going forward and backward. He knows that you know how to circle. And if you're circling, getting practice at circle movements, that's also going to put your opponent in a defensive state. If he does not know how to circle you or to move in a circular motion, then you're going to win that fight. Because most fighters just move forward and backward, and that's it. So if you have that whole new dimension where you're moving on the circle to you know, moving at a half circle around him, then that's a whole new dimension that you're at, and it's very effective. So getting used to coming in forward, coming in backward, and moving on the circle, right? Which is a great thing to know. And so pretty much, if you're in that freedom of the on guard position, you could do that. I can't move in a half circular motion in block. It's just not going to be possible. I mean, I'm not going to be able to do it. Neither am I going to be able to move on the half circle punching, right? How am I going to, you know, it's not going to work. I have to be in on guard position, right? I can, right? Be free. The on guard position is your freedom. So always try to be there. Immobilization. So a lot of people teach about immobilization. The best immobilization is, it means to immobilize the target, which is they can't use it anymore. So that's either by holding it, right? Locking in, holding the arm, grabbing their wrist, bending it down towards you. Sometimes you can use both hands to bend the wrist down, using your thumbs to push down on the top of the wrist, like this. And you can use both thumbs and using the hands to go under the wrist. So, like that. You could also do it the other way. You can use the 4 fingers on the top to bend down, and you can use all 8 of these fingers to bend down on one wrist using the two thumbs underneath. It's really going to be what is comfortable to you, but you really want to learn how to lock a wrist up. You can't really effectively lock a wrist in a real fight with one hand. You're going to need both hands. So if you're close to that opponent and you can grab one wrist and you feel like you can grab that wrist with both hands, do that and lock that. You could do it all these ways. Lock that wrist in, right? Anyway, just bending, but the main thing to remember is you're bending the hand downward while lifting up on the wrist with the fingers that are underneath. So the fingers on top are going downward and the fingers on the bottom are going upward. And you could break a wrist pretty easily like that. And that's a perfect example of immobilization. Grandmasters use immobilization as one of their first tactics. They don't really want to stand here in a fight, where they could potentially get hurt if they've mastered the art of immobilization. So if you master this aspect of fighting where you can master wrist locks, you're really not going to have to fight that much. Because as soon as someone throws a punch at you, you'll be able to lock that arm up, grab his wrist, put it behind his back, and you know how they do it. They get very professional with it, very masterly at it, where it looks like the opponent's like very flimsy. And at that point, when you're locked into an immobilization, you pretty much are. And so you can immobilize the wrist the easiest. You could even immobilize at the fingers, at the joints, the elbows, the shoulders, the groin area. If you grab it, that person is immobilized. Or the knees, the ankles, the neck. This is the art of immobilization, and it's a good thing to learn that, especially if you have bigger opponents. Feint your way into that immobilization of the arm, grabbing their wrist, and they're not going to be anything. They're not going to be able to do anything. So it doesn't matter how big you are, right, or how strong you are. Superman wasn't a bodybuilder. He didn't look like the Incredible Hulk, but he was fast. He was very intelligent. He was wise. He knew how to use his body to combat his opponents, to do all of these type of things that we're talking about. So that's the art of immobilization. You could learn a lot of stuff on YouTube, but I think just for now, because I don't want to throw too much on you. I mean, that's a whole realm of defense in itself. Just learn the wrist lock. Just what I was saying. Go over that, and you'll be more than able to defend yourself in any circumstance. Just with that alone, you'll be able to defeat an opponent. All right. So focusing on the center line is something that's important. Pretty much the center line is the midline of the body. So just focusing on this area, if you're attacking center line, this is where the most powerful areas to hit are. It's where the heart is, it's where the solar plexus is, it's where the neck is, it's where the nose is, the mouth, the jaw region, the groin. So the center line, the brain. So the center line is the most important place to learn to attack. So it's great to learn how to fight, but if you hone all of your mental energy to the focus of that center line, and you're focusing all your blows and tactics towards that center line, then you're going to be able to push the opponent back pretty fast, very powerfully. And once again, I want to talk about exhausting the opponent. We want to be able to manage our energy, all right? If you have an opponent who really knows how to fight, and he comes and he picks a fight with you, that's the opponent you want to exhaust. He's really big and tough, and he knows how to fight, so he's going to beat you up, right? No, wrong. You now know how to exhaust this opponent by what? By what I taught you. The step back, right? Stepping back, switching from your regular stance to southpaw to egg him on or fake him out, to roll into his punches. He's going to be throwing a lot of punches at you. So you're going to roll into most of them. How do you do that? Just one step back. That's all. All you need is one step back. One. And you rolled from his opponent. You might have to dodge like that. You might not even have to move at all. He might come to hit you, and you just roll into it like that. Just roll into it with a slip. Or you can slip this way. So a lot of these opponents that are in your life now that you feel that you can't defeat, they're defeatable now. You go over this 3 levels for the next month. You implement it with what I was telling you with Jeet Kune Do, and you start studying the best fighters that are out there. No one's going to defeat you. You could learn this stuff by yourself. You don't need to go to a Kung Fu class. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars a year to learn how to defend yourself. This is the stuff that's lethal. I'm not teaching you how to get a black belt. I'm teaching you how to give a black eye. I'm teaching you how to give black and blues, or to black out your opponent. This isn't about, level or status. A lot of fighters, they take their belts. They've never been in street fights before. They take their belts. They say, oh, well, I paid thousands. My mom paid thousands of dollars for me to get a belt, and I'm tough. These might be the opponents you have now, and you could possibly knock them out. Bruce Lee didn't believe in any belts or anything like that, because it's not necessary. He only had 3 levels. Either you're a novice, you're an intermediate, or you're advanced, right? That's kind of how I laid out this video. So you don't really need to spend any more money on self-defense. Then they're gonna want you to spend thousands of dollars on your kids. Well, how about your kids? Have them? No, teach them yourself. There's nothing more satisfying than to be able to teach your little ones how to defend themselves. There's nothing more satisfying for them to feel, wow, my dad, or some of you super women out there, my mom taught me how to fight and defend myself. That's priceless. That's worth way more than thousands of dollars that you can pay. And it's very simple. Bruce Lee once said, he said,